Okay, so let's start with which loop? Let's start with the for loop. So let's start with the for loop. So we're gonna do a for loop example. And we call this a definite loop, remember? Because we run it until something happens, all right? Sorry, this should say we call this, not we can. All right, so how do we actually write a for loop? So the first thing we want to bring in is the for keyword. Okay, so this instantiates the loop. So we're going to say for. Now what we want to do is bring in a variable, and this variable is going to act as our store of value. So it could be anything. This can be anything we want. So we're going to say for a, and since we're looping into a definite number of time, we use the in keyword, and then this is where we can set up that definition, basically the range we want to loop from. So let's say we want to loop from 1 to 20. All we have to do is put the starting point, so we can say 1, 2 dots, and then to where we want to loop until, which would be 20. And there you go. That's a signature for it. Now all we need to do is bring in curly brackets, and then within the curly brackets, we can actually define what we want to be doing. We can add our instructions. Let me also be clear one thing. I'm going to comment in here. 20 is not included, right? If we're looping until 20, just so you know. Just so you know, 20 would not be included. As we're going to see, let's say that we want to print each 1 through 20 with A. We want to actually show this in the console. What we could do is we could say print ln, okay, and then we could just tag A is, we'll put A, and end the expression here. And if we run this code, what we should see in the console is A is 1, A is 2, A is 3, all the way up to 19, because remember 20 is not included. And would you look at that? That's a loop. We have now created a definite loop. So if this is your first loop in Rust, congratulations. You know, if it's not working, make sure your syntax is correct. Now, how can we actually manipulate this further to do more? Well, let's say, for example, we don't want to include a number. Let's say we want to skip the number 2. Well, what we could do is we could create conditional logic. Remember, we were learning about conditional statements and decision-making structures. Well, we could add decision-making structures into our loops. And we could say that if A is equal to 2, okay, so we have a parameter here now in conditions. And I'm going to show you another keyword here for looping, which is very valuable. Continue. The continue keyword. Now, what does the continue keyword do? I'm going to comment it in. The continue statement or keyword skips the subsequent, I don't know if that's how you spell it, subsequent? I don't know. The subsequent statement in the current iteration, and iteration means the current loop that we are iterating, okay? It's just more the computer science way of saying it. In the current iteration, current period within our loop, and takes the control back to the beginning of the loop, to be clear, of the loop, okay? So if we don't want to include 2, this continue statement would make a lot of sense, right? Why? Because think about it. We're going to do 1. Is A equal to 2? No, it's 1, so we're going to print 1. We're going to get to 2 then. Is 2 equal to 2? Yes. So what do? We continue. What does that mean? We go back. We go to 3. Is 3 equal to 2? No, so we print. And we go all the way up to 20. So let's see. If I run this, let's see what happens. So if we take a look now in the console, we see 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 19. So 2 effectively is skipped, and therefore we are successfully manipulating the sequence of events within this loop and in our function sequentially, to an extent, by playing with this continue. By adding the continue statement, we're changing the flow of sequence of the code, and this is to our benefit because we are achieving a goal, right? We're achieving our objective, and so that's what a for loop, looks like in a nutshell. Let's take a look at another type of loop.